Luz del Mundo claims over 5 million members across 50 countries. It is one of the largest religious organizations in Latin America, and its leader was convicted of rape, human trafficking, and child abuse in 2022. Naason Joaquin Garcia, known to members as the Apostle, inherited the church from his father. The succession was framed as divine appointment. God did not choose a board. God chose a bloodline. Members were taught that only the apostle could mediate between them and salvation. No apostle, no heaven. That is not metaphor. That is leverage. What investigators documented was a systematic pattern. Young women and girls brought into the inner circle, conditioned through spiritual obligation, and then coerced into silence through the same theological framework that granted access. Reporting the apostle meant reporting against God. The trial produced 11,000 pages of evidence. Naason was sentenced to 16 years. The church, as of 2024, maintains his innocence and continues to operate. 5 million members, one dynasty, no accountability built into the architecture. This was episode 18. La Luz del Mundo, the Light of the World, was founded in Guadalajara, Mexico in 1926 by a man born Eusebio Joaquin Gonzalez. He renamed himself Aaron. He claimed that God had appeared to him directly, that he had been chosen as a new apostle, the singular human vessel through which divine authority would flow. He did not present this as a theological opinion. He presented it as a verifiable fact of spiritual reality that his followers were obligated to accept. The doctrine he established was structurally specific. Salvation required mediation through the apostle. God would not receive your prayers independently. The apostle was the channel. This is not a peripheral teaching within La Luz del Mundo. It is the load-bearing wall. When a religious organization teaches that only one man stands between you and eternal damnation, it produces a specific behavioral architecture. Obedience to that man is not a virtue. It is a survival mechanism. Questioning him is not dissent. It is a risk to your eternal future. Aaron died in 1964. Leadership passed to his son, Samuel Joaquin Flores. Samuel continued the apostle framework. He also expanded the church aggressively, building the international membership base, establishing colonies in the United States and Central America, and constructing a physical headquarters in Guadalajara, known as Hermosa Provincia, beautiful province. Hermosa Provincia is not a church campus in the conventional sense. It is a walled, self-contained neighborhood surrounding the Mother Temple, an enormous structure that can hold tens of thousands of worshipers. The physical scale is part of the message. This is not a small sect. This is a civilization with its own center of gravity. Samuel died in 2014. Leadership passed to his son, Naason Joaquin Garcia, the third-generation apostle. The bloodline, now in its third iteration, inheriting the theological architecture his grandfather built. One man ordained by God, irreplaceable, above accountability. In June 2019, Naason Joaquin Garcia was arrested at Los Angeles International Airport. California prosecutors charged him with producing child pornography, rape, human trafficking, and other serious offenses. The charges described a systematic pattern of abuse. Young women and girls who had been brought into the apostles' inner circle, who had been conditioned through spiritual obligation to comply, and who had been threatened with spiritual consequences for disclosure. The framework was not incidental. The framework was the mechanism. If your eternal salvation depends on the apostles' favor, then the apostles' requests carry a very specific kind of weight. Refusal is not merely social non-compliance. Refusal is a spiritual risk. Members rallied. Hundreds of thousands signed petitions. Caravans organized. Protests were held at the courthouse. This is one of the consistent features of high-control religious organizations, even after credible allegations have surfaced. Even after charges have been filed, significant portions of the membership mobilize in defense of the leader, rather than on behalf of the victims. The doctrine has done its work. In 2022, Naason pleaded no contest to 3 counts of sexual abuse involving minors. He was sentenced to 16 years and 8 months in state prison. The plea agreement was, in the framing of some survivor advocates, a limitation, a narrower accounting than the full scope of alleged conduct. The church's response was to declare that the apostle had been victimized by a corrupt legal system. The institution did not undergo reform. It did not launch internal investigations. It did not acknowledge the survivors who had come forward. Luz del Mundo has over 5 million members in 50 countries. The church operates churches, schools, radio stations, and community services. It has genuine political influence in Mexico, where it has historically traded bloc voting for favorable treatment from political parties. That influence is structural. 5 million disciplined voters, organized under a single institutional hierarchy, represent a meaningful electoral asset, which means the institutional incentives to protect the church are not limited to religious loyalty. What La Luz del Mundo demonstrates is a pattern that appears across high-control religious organizations, regardless of geography or tradition. The more completely a doctrine removes accountability from a single authority figure, the more completely that removal can be exploited. The architecture does not create abuse, but it creates the conditions under which abuse can be perpetrated, concealed, and survived institutionally even after exposure. The apostle is in prison. The church is still active. The doctrine is unchanged. This was episode 18 of the Mind Control Archives.